Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Beyond The Barclay with me, Jez Davies. I'm, of course, joined with the sexiest man in Durham, Mr. Morgan Hewitt. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I am in Durham, so you're definitely right on that one this time.
Well, I can see the ladder and I can see the Ambers Army shirt, so I know you're there. So that's good to hear. How's the how are the plants getting on? How are your aubergines?
Aubergines are okay. One of my plants lost a few of its leaves. It's a snake plant, so it's quite meaty. It's quite a meaty snake plant. But we're close to repotting season, everyone. So it's a big time of the year for the house plant.
Fantastic. Oh, that's good to hear. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest today, Mr. Daniel Brigham. Thank you so much for coming on, sir.
Thanks for having me, Jez. Yeah, and Morgan, really pleased to be here. And are we trying to claim that aubergines are plants now?
Well, I think you're going to have to show it now, Morgan. You showed it on the previous episode, but is it in arm's reach?
It's you got it wrong. It's an asparagus. It's like an asparagus. That's what you meant.
Okay.
You've got an asparagus plant. Wow.
Yeah.
There it is. It's a term. It's called an asparagus.
Right. Okay. Right. So it's not like an edible asparagus then.
I don't think you can eat it. It says on the label not to eat it. So
okay. Right. Well, if it has said that, then probably best to leave it, isn't it?
I'll avoid it. But it's a new addition to the family.
I was going to say you could probably smoke it, but that's one for another. That's one for another day. Dan, if you'd just like to perhaps introduce yourself, then where you're from, how long you supported Norwich for, and what supporting Norwich means to you.
Wow, the big ones. So yeah, I grew up in Norwich. I live in York these days, but still have a season ticket and come down for weekend home games. I'm not quite mad enough to make the Tuesday night and Wednesday night ones, unfortunately, which is a shame this season in particular, because that seems to be where most of our wins are happening. What does Norwich mean to me? I suppose it means different things, sort of the older you get, and I've spent most of my time living away from Norwich, come back a few times to live there. And it's always, if you meet a fellow football fan, a kind of a good way just to connect. I think people are quite interested in Norwich City, and that we do seem to get about all over the place as well. I've already, I was out running right at the start of the season, actually, after our first defeat of many under Liam Manning. Went for a run the next day around York and ran past a guy cycling in a Norwich shirt. So I had a little chat with them. So we do get about. So it's a way to sort of connect, I think, and a sort of healthier way to connect than, social media and that kind of stuff these days. So yeah, the community spirit of it is kind of why I think we might not necessarily fall in love with it, but why we stay with it.
No, 100%. I mean, I've never told this story before, and I can't believe I haven't. But I live in Nebworth in Hertfordshire, so I'm sort of 2 hours away from Norwich. So I feel your pain a little bit with obviously travelling to the games, but not certainly not to that extent. I mean, you're probably another double and then some more on. But the vicar for my wedding was 10 years ago. 10 years ago this year, he was a Norwich fan, and so we rocked up to the pre-wedding meeting. And
he's there in full kit.
Well, exactly, yeah. We were sort of then we got on to talking about football, and obviously he saw that I was from Norwich because he was asking that, and he said, "Oh, I'm a Norwich fan as well." And he actually, I want to call it a scarf. What the vicars wear when they're doing it. What's it called?
Yeah, let's stick with scarf.
You know what I mean? Well, not the dog collar. No, it's the one where when they've got the dog collar on and they've got the white gown, if you like, and then they have something that sort of.
Is it like a ruff?
Yeah, that sort of. No, that sounds like William Shakespeare, but it's like a really long scarf essentially. But what he did for the service is it would usually sort of have, I don't know, like the Church of England's insignia on it, but he actually got a Norwich City scarf and an Arsenal scarf, because obviously Fiona's an Arsenal fan, and wore a half and half scarf for our wedding. Yeah. That's probably one for another day, half and half scarves. But yeah, when you were talking about your man on the bike, that's what, for some reason, that's what it reminded me of.
And Morgan, do you see many Norwich fans in
Durham? Yeah, a few. Actually, you know what? Not as many as you'd think. It's mostly any other team but Norwich, unless you get the bus on match days, and obviously it's very busy. But I mean, I lived in London for a long time,
Past 8.
and much like there's nothing fast about that bus, Jez. And obviously, it's just like yourself, Dan. You know, you'd be walking around the corner, and someone would come past on the bike, and they'd be wearing a Norwich jersey, and they'd always holler after them, "Yellows," and then you'd put thumbs up or whatever as they. And I just because there was a really good pub in a Norwich City pub in London called the Old Red Lion Theatre Pub in Angel. And
I used to live just around the corner from there, actually, in Islington.
Yeah, exactly. And Damien Devine, once of the Shire of there, used to run it, and obviously put the games on and all the memorabilia inside, and that became like it gives me goosebumps now, but it used to really kind of, because you're not that far away from Norfolk or Norwich or whatever, being in London, but it just gave you that sort of like touch from home, especially in a big city like London, where there aren't that many kind of I guess smaller club pubs, like you've got Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, whatever, and there used to be one near Broadway Market for West Brom called the Albion.
Oh yeah,
and it's not there anymore. But stuff like that, I loved, and obviously Damien's closer to you now, Jez, and we're trying to get him on the pod, because he'll have some stories to tell.
Yeah,
there's got to be like a 10,000 word piece to write for The Athletic, probably, about like little pubs for different teams in sort of big cities like London, where like 10, 15, sometimes even 2 or 3 fans just congregate on a match day to watch their team, whilst there's a load of sort of confused onlookers who don't give a shit about, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast.
No, it's fine. Yeah, you crack on.
Don't care about football, or certainly Norwich City, or whoever it may be in that pub.
I think as well as that, is even like further flung around the world. I mean, the New York Canaries, they used to have I think they still do meet at a bar, but it was more Norwich themed. I remember the bar that they did meet, and I never went. And I don't know if either of you two have been fortunate enough to go out there and see it, but we had was it James, wasn't it? Morgan, turn of the year, he came on and talked about the New York Canaries, and it just shows the reach of this football club, doesn't it? That you got fans that are all over the world. We had a guy from Australia, come on as well. It's just unbelievable, really.
Yeah, there's Thailand Canaries as well, and obviously if we ever get to do the second season of Canary Club, well, we're going international. That's what we're doing, Jez.
Yeah. Well, if there's any clubs nickname the Canaries in Thailand, then let us know, because we'll be there. Right, I think we should jump into some of the questions then, Dan. So I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but how did your love for Norwich City begin? And can you remember your first game and the moment you felt properly hooked?
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, can't quite tell your ages, obviously, but so I'm 43, and growing up like in the early 90s as a kid in Newton Flotman down the A140, I went to Long Stratton High School, and nearly all of my mates and people in my year and year above and year below were in Norwich shirts, which probably was a reflection of the fact Norwich were a pretty good team back in the late 80s and early 90s. So it's kind of like osmosis, really. If you're into football, then you're just going to end up supporting the teams that all your mates support. But it wasn't a given for me. My dad was a Leeds fan. I mean, he's kind of lapsed now. He's a bit more of a Norwich fan because he's lived in Norwich since the late 1970s. So I had the choice of going Norwich City or Leeds United. My brother chose Leeds United. I chose Norwich City. And that was around 1990. And then a year later, Leeds United won the Division 1 title. So I'm never quite sure whether I made the right decision or not. Unsurprisingly, my first game at Carrow Road was against Leeds United. My dad took me to that, and we won 2-1. Sutton and Cuckoo scored, and I only know that because I just looked it up about half an hour ago. Because I think, like anyone else, or who really remembers like the details of their first game, all I remember is your classic smells of pies, the massive sea of 20,000 people, as it would have been there. People just swearing all the time as well. Wasn't used to that. like people behind you being funny and stuff like that. And yeah, like just like any other kid at that age, just sort of immediately hooked. It's such a, like, you know, you go to school in your primary school and high school class of about 15 to 20 people. It's rare that you suddenly end up in a quite a small space surrounded by 20,000 other people as well. So yeah, pretty intoxicated. And I think I made the right choice.
I think
no one wants to support dirty Leeds, really.
Oh no, absolutely no. Obviously, that'll be a fun day in the family, won't it, in a couple of weeks when we're playing them in the FA Cup. So hopefully there's going to be an upset with that.
Tickets are booked for that one.
No, fantastic.
How about you? Do you remember your do you remember the details of your first game? Yeah,
I do. I mean, weirdly enough, my first game was Wimbledon at home, and we lost 1-0, unfortunately. My first away game was also Wimbledon, and do you remember? It was when they played at Selhurst Park, and it was obviously Mark Liebra's second game for us, but he came on and scored in the 91st minute, and we won 1-0. So it was sort of like I don't know, roles reversed, I suppose. But yeah, it was. I went with middle school actually. It was I was at Horsford. I was at Horsford Middle, and it was a school trip. And I do remember the high school. It was the headmaster actually just stood at the front watching us the whole time rather than watching the game. I think he knew what we were all like. So, but yeah, I took my boy as well. So I took my boy to his first game a few weeks ago, the West Brom game. It was 3-1, and so his first ever goals that he's seen at Carrow Road was scored by Paris Mahoma. So obviously that's what I'm holding on to, and a header as well, bizarrely, because he looks like he's going to be the second coming of Wesley Houlihan, doesn't he? But yeah, so that was me.
Steady on.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Morgan?
I don't really remember too much of the details, but it was it was when we were pretty poor, and I think we only went because it was cheap for me, because I think it was back when they were doing kids for £1 in general, so in the late 90s, and we played Southend United, and it was I just remember it being a really wet and cold day, and I'm sure it was someone like Southend or Grimsby or something, because I just remember it being a really grim day, and it was wet and we lost, and I didn't really get it. I was like, I don't really understand, because at the time I was playing football as well, like for what was Dereham Wanderers back then, before I think they're obsolete now, they're just Dereham Town or whatever. And I'm going to be brutally honest, I didn't really, I liked football, but I think at that time I didn't really like playing organized football. Like, I loved kicking around with my friends, like after school, and it was a lot of fun. But then when it became, you go to organized football, and then you then go to we went to Carrow Road because it was just something to do, because it was cheap and there's nothing else to do. I think I was with my mum, my sister, and her then husband at the time, and I just didn't get it. I was like, this is crap. Like, I'm cold. But just the vibe, there's no vibe here, you know. Everyone's miserable.
I mean,
why? It wasn't busy. It wasn't like, you know, like it's packed nowadays. It was during that downturn.
I was gonna, like, the mid to late 90s is a bad time for any kid to have their formative years as a Norwich fan. There's probably like an entire lost generation of Norwich fans from like 95 to sort of 2000.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And then sort of after that, I kind of was just like, well, this is okay. They're my local team. If everyone said, you know, who do you support? I'd say Norwich. Why is that? Because they're my local team. And then, like, you know, I worked in a shoe shop in Norwich. I'm not going to say which one because, you know, I don't want to give them free advertising. But you get your like Darren Huckabees come in and your Phil Mulryans, and so there was always that kind of like. There was always that kind of
pretty fancy shoe shop then, if you're getting the footballers coming in.
It wasn't too bad. It wasn't like Walk Right or anything like that. It was a good one. But yeah,
did you say Darren Eadie coming in?
Darren Huckabee.
Darren Eadie must have the smallest feet I've ever seen on a man. They are. I mean, I am a short guy. I'm probably about his height, and but my feet have been next to his feet, and I reckon I've probably got a good sort of 30% on his feet. I don't know whether that helped with his balance as a footballer. I assume it must have done because he was excellent. But I couldn't stop staring at them. They were so tiny.
Send that question across the men's media team, could you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say he's not paying VAT on them either, is he? If you buy the children one, so it's all good. Yeah, every cloud and all that. But no, I think yeah, it's great, and I love these sort of chats about the first time. And I mean, it's you look back. I mean, I look back at players like Steen Nedergaard and Jean-Yves de Blassy and Cedric Onslow and players like that, where during that time we never done anything. We were always like mid-table and Division 1 as it was. But there was some occasional heroes, wasn't there? I mean, I think the one that everyone tends to forget about is Pape Diop. I think it wasn't the Pape Diop that rocked up at Fulham a few years later. It was a different one, and I actually follow him on LinkedIn because he's now a football agent in Senegal. But I think his most infamous, shall we say, incident with Norwich was him gobbing off at the QPR fans, which made it into a fanzine. But it was, it was some of those players around that time were just, I mean,
you have to take what you can get when it's when you're going through like times like that, when it's sort of mid-table, nothing's happening, and hopefully we're not entering another era like that right now. But
can I chuck you another name?
Please
Gaetano Gialanza.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we didn't have a great track record with sort of overseas players, did we? So as soon as we signed one, I think most people assumed they were going to be incredible and bring some kind of European flair with them, and they so rarely did.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I still think that's the case. I mean, not obviously now, but like when under our boy Manning, and towards the tail end of Hoff's season last year, I mean, I was so excited the summer of Hoff. I was so excited. And then actually over this summer, I was really excited, and I was like, God, these guys but you get it into your head, that for some reason they're all going to be world beaters. And, some of them haven't turned out to be quite that good.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't think about Marley Watkins or James Husband when we signed them, did we?
No, exactly that.
And we didn't, and we still didn't months later.
I've never ever trusted a YouTube video. I've never, they always do these highlight reels, don't they? Since I watched the Julian Brellier masterclass on YouTube, and when he turned up, I don't think he could kick a football 2 meters. But I think since then I've never trusted a YouTube video of a player that's got all these skills, and they rock up at Norwich, and I don't know if they put the football boots on the wrong feet or something, because they're not the same players on that YouTube video.
Or they put Darren Eadie's football boots on, and they're in deep trouble then.
Yeah, absolutely. Morgan, I think it's time for question 2.
That kind of leads nicely into question 2. And this has come up on this podcast a few times because I started to read it. I haven't quite finished it yet. I get that. I need to start reading. I need to stop doing that with books. So you're on there, aren't you? You're in here? Yeah.
Yes, somewhere. Yeah. I did not put my name on the cover. Yeah.
Okay. So where did the idea for the place is going bananas come from? And was there any particular match or era that made you feel that this story had to be told?
No. So the honest truth, because I used to work for the football club. I was head of content there, and as part of the program, it had a feature called the Manager Files, which I sort of commissioned, which I wrote, and Zoe wrote as well, who is also, as you just showed there, sort of bylined. And and it sort of occurred to me. So it was basically each match you'd have the history of all the key incidents that happened under a manager right from the beginning. John Bowman, our first ever professional manager.
It's so for those who aren't initiated, it goes through the premises Norwich City football history, but through the eyes of the the manager who was at the club at the time, and some incredible facts. Like, I didn't know that Norwich's first ever ground was up by Knockhead's Garden Centre on that, what is now, is it a cricket or rugby
Yeah,
pitch?
I think is it CNS schools
Yeah.
land still? I think it certainly used to be anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah, up Newmarket Road,
Yeah.
before they moved to the Ness. Well, this is it. So I'm certainly no like historian. I leaned very heavily on, Canary Citizens, which is a big, meaty tome that does it season by season, has all the results and goal scorers and stuff like that. But while I was putting together, and while me and Zoe were putting together the manager files for the match day program, it sort of like there were so many stories while going through it that we didn't know. And it sort of occurred to me, it's a pretty easy win to put out the first ever official history of the football club out. And as you said, Morgan, like, you've not finished it, but that's fine, because it was always intended as a kind of, a toilet book, basically, something you can just pick up, have a read about what happened, under John Bond or under John Bowman or, any of our managers, and then put it down again, forget about it for a few months.
Yeah, I mean,
like just a little, the little stories throughout that, just stuff like we played in 1905. We played a team of baby elephants at the Norwich Hippodrome. Like, genuinely played a team of elephants from India, beat them 4-2, with their goalkeeper, an elephant, scoring 2 own goals to give us the win. Like, and stuff like that, I had no idea about, and I kind of thought, well, you can't really access that really easily and digestibly. That's not a word. I am a writer, honestly. And so because most of it was already written through the program, decided to put it together for a book. And then I went back and added in a bit of like Norwich social history in it and stuff like that. I had no idea this city had trams up until like the 50s and stuff like that. So
no, it's really, the thing is, it's this podcast, we've done a few things with a few places in the city, highlighting the history not only of the club, but the link with the city, Bridewell Alley Museum being one of the places. I'm going to drop in a what is it called again? I can't think of the word. A plug. Yeah, a plug. It's been a long day. And
Bridewell Museum is great. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. They've got a little Norwich, a little thing at the end of the sort of trail, and tells you about the history of the nest. And there's a cool model there, and Captain Canary sat on his chair and different things. And it's just really good to get to know that sort of intrinsic link between the city of Norwich and the club, because they are one, and they're so intrinsically linked. And that's what, I guess, what makes the club so precious to so many people, and it means so much to everyone when we come away winning 3-0, or 2-0, and everyone in the club, in the city, you can tell the atmosphere is buzzing, as opposed to losing, like, I don't know, 5-1 or something. But yeah, just stuff like this. I just because I remember obviously a little bit of that season, and that was towards the tail of that sort of, because we spoke to Elliot Bennett recently, didn't we, Jez? I don't know how he's going to fall, but he sort of talked about his time under Chris Hughton towards the end of Hughton's tenure. And I remember that season, Jez just mentioned there about foreign players coming in, Ricky Van Wolfswinkel, and I think it's such, and I haven't used these words in a while, have I, Jez? A sliding doors moment for us that season was Ricky Van Wolfswinkel coming in, and how he performed and how it just went. It's such a, always a tragic.
Even sort of more sliding doors, because we had a choice between Wilfred Bonney and Ricky Van Wolfswinkel.
Right, yeah.
So we thought we'd go for the more lightweight version of that, and well, the rest is history.
Yeah, but it is, and it took a few years to get back on track, and it's just brilliant. It's such a good book to get hold of for anyone interested. So, fair play and well played for putting this together, because it is brilliant. Obviously, I don't really remember the 80s very much.
Well, honestly. I don't, and honestly, like just all writing about that sort of, was it Ron Saunders, John Bond? I've noted this down. Ken Brown, Dave Stringer, Mike Walker, like that sort of 25-year run of just outstanding managers. Like there were a few relegations in there, but we'd almost always bounce back like the first time of asking. Like it must have been a properly entertaining and fun time to watch this football club go from being in the top tier for the first ever time in the 70s to, you know, ending up in Europe, and then sadly just before you started watching, Morgan, which so means you missed out on a lot of that.
Yeah, I think it's coming on to like a period, jumping on the bandwagon at a time when it's like maybe not the best time to be. But then, you know, the lows, it is what it is.
Season I started watching, we got relegated to Division 1, so that's yeah, so that was fun. Andy Marshall was I always remember the game where Brian Gunn went down with his injury. See, Andy Marshall was in, and they could have, obviously they thought Andy Marshall was ready, didn't they? But I think in hindsight, had they signed another goalkeeper, I think we would have stayed in the league and perhaps might have got the riches.
He was unbelievable on his full debut against Newcastle. Andy Marshall was, and he was, you know, although he, you know, turned out to be a snake. He was a very good goalkeeper.
No, he was, and I think you obviously just touched on the origins of the title, and I guess it's from the Neil Adams quote on Radio Norfolk when we scored against Derby. That's bananas. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the place is going bananas. The book's called, and I kind of just wanted to reflect the fact this isn't going to be, you know, your classic stuffy book, you know, that's doing lots of history books a disservice. But I wanted to sort of get it across, like as a football fan myself, I think it's important not to take football too seriously, and I kind of wanted this book, and so we wanted this book to sort of reflect that as well, like we go through lots of highs and lows, but at the end of the day, it's just a game. And it's quite, and, you know, and silly things happen in it, you know, like I didn't know until writing this book that we used to play on Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Teams did, like, usually sort of home and away against the same team, which, you know, is absolutely mad. Loved reading and learning about when we first used a motor bus to travel to an away game in like as far back as like 1909. So like silly things like that, really enjoyed sort of learning about and then putting it down into the book.
But also,
go on.
After you, Karen. One of the biggest things, and you know, in the history of the club, and for our younger viewers, I can't believe I said that. God, I sound like an old man.
Do you have many young viewers?
We don't
have many viewers.
Yeah, but we played in blue and white, and we're called the Citizens.
Yeah.
Until what era was it?
So like early 1900s. So I would say, and I don't want to. I think it's probably got people are more familiar with it now over the last decade. But I would still say the majority of Norwich fans don't actually know why we're called the Canaries. I think they a lot, and I was the same. I assumed it was because we just play in green and yellow. And that's what Jeremy Goss used to tell. Like Jeremy Goss used to tell people, it's because we took canaries down the mines when he did stadium tours. And it's, for those who don't know, it's for the people from like the Flemish, like Belgium and France, kind of fleeing religious persecution, came to Norwich to start a new life. They're known as the Strangers, hence the Strangers Pub and Strangers Coffee brand, etc. This is all in the Bridewell Museum, so another reference for them. And they were mostly weavers. That was their work. That's and right. To keep themselves company, because they didn't have iPhones back then or TVs to watch, they brought canaries with them because the canaries would sing to them and keep them company. And that's why we are green and yellow and moved from blue and white to be green and yellow.
Yeah,
amazing.
Wasn't the chairman a big fan of the birds as well? And that was one of the reasons why.
South.
You know, he pushed.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was obviously named after the South Stand, and I think that's another misconception, isn't it? That's the direction of travel is that stand, but it's not. It's named after South.
Yeah.
Oh right, I didn't know that.
There we go.
There you go.
Learn something new every day. They were going to name the snake pit the Robert Chase bit, but they never did, I don't think. So, no, I'm joking, of course.
Yeah,
I don't think that ever would have got passed through. I'm surprised they haven't done a statue of Delia yet or something like that just to commemorate her for 25, 30 years. But I don't think they ever will they?
We don't seem big on statues, really, do we?
Nah,
as a football club. I'm not really entirely sure why not.
No, agree. It's so they can make way for that fan zone that's coming in a few years. I think that's a good time to move on to question 3 then, Dan. So as a supporter yourself, what is the most bananas moment you've personally experienced following Norwich City?
I don't want to get self-indulgent particularly, but I think the honest answer is writing Grant Holt's autobiography is absolute mad for a Norwich fan who thought he was, the best thing since sliced bread. Still think that. Reinvigorated, alongside the band of brothers of that era, reinvigorated this football club from, near administration and the doldrums. So to get the opportunity to spend time with him, helping him to craft his autobiography, sit in a room with him, listening to his stories, is mad. I look back on it, that was 2018-19 I did that, and I look back on it and it still feels pretty surreal to have done that, and a real privilege to have done that. So that's pretty bananas, I think.
How did that come about then? Was that obviously your links with the club at the time, was it? Or
so I worked for the club at the time and just thought I want to know Grant Holt's story, and ended up having to write his story. And it's an incredible story, from the 9th tier of English football all the way to the Premier League. The guy literally gave up on football when he was 21 or 22, and then at age 30 was scoring at Anfield. It genuinely, he was a sort of tire fitter in his early 20s. So it was a genuinely interesting story, I think, as well to tell. So I just asked him if he wanted to write an autobiography, and he was up for it.
Did he go and play in Japan, or did I dream that?
Singapore and Australia he went to play in.
When he was
pretty young. Yeah, so he did and that's basically when he'd given up on football. He had the opportunity to go and play abroad for a bit of money, really, but with no real thought that he'd come back and be a professional footballer in the UK again. But that's how it turned out, and thank God it did as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because again, we talked to Elliot Bennett the other day about that whole period of time, and I said, I said to Elliot Bennett that you guys without, I mean, Benno mentioned it himself, didn't he, Jez? That he was on paper, none of us were superstars. None of us were rocking up with this massive reputation. And they did the job. They went through the leagues from League One to Championship to the Premier League and did the job and didn't stop until, unfortunately, Lambert left and we know what happened. But I think, and I said to Ben, I was like, well, did you notice the physical change on the leagues, on your body? And he was like, no, we were just having so much fun and enjoying every second of it that we didn't notice the requirements and the change in levels of physicality and what was required of us. And I just think it's an incredible journey and story, again, I think of recent years, the club that you could probably say were in a similar mold to that would have been Sheffield United under Wilder, and that team being some of its parts, and then Billy Sharp and how they performed in the Premier League, under Wilder. But
and Southampton did it as well, like Lallana and Ricky Lambert in that team. The same season we were in League One, Lallana and Lambert, and I can't think who else now. We're in that team. We played against each other. Wes Hoolahan against Adam Lallana in League One just seems mad. You find it, you say, the requirements are changing and going through the leagues, but Holty was insistent that he found the Premier League easier than the Championship, though. Because defenders, centre backs, he said, would sit off you a little bit so you didn't get turned. So they don't get turned, whereas in the Championship they go straight into your back, and he said that suited Holt's game more was having defenders sit off him a little bit. Don't know whether he was sort of tongue in cheek when he was saying that. But his goal scoring record shows that he was good in the Premier League as well.
So close to making a cap as well, which was absolutely gutting that happened. Because we, Jez, sorry to interrupt, but one of my vivid memories being on this podcast, because Jez formed this back in 2024. One of my vivid memories throughout this time that we've been doing this crazy thing is watching Jez drop a nut meeting Grant Holt for the first time at the Amber's Army charity event in Durham Town and interviewing him about pies. And Jez was just like, he's just looking at him and like, I don't think you could quite believe it, could you? It was so surreal.
I think when people say out of body experience, don't they? I think that was probably the closest I've ever come to that. And it was sort of like I had to compose myself for about 5 minutes afterwards, just to sort of trying to process what had happened in that sort of 2 or 3 minutes, which felt like an hour when I was talking to him. It was incredible. But now he was great, and it shows I think it shows the love for the club that not only Grant and Holt, but several of these players that are not from Norwich and they stick around in the area, not just the club, but the area itself. And I think that's just testament to Norwich as a place, really, isn't it?
Especially as a lot of the time when Holty was here, he spent, his family were living up in Carlisle still for it. They were always going to move back. That was the plan, but ended up coming back to Norwich instead. It can happen like that. I mean, I was the same when I first, like, Wes Hallen is probably the only person I've ever really got starstruck by. Only sports person anyway. And I used to like work in sport as well. So I have been fortunate enough to meet some quite, big names and stuff in sport. And Wes Houlihan was when I first started working for the club. Like when I first had to meet him, I was an unprofessional mess. Just don't tell him you love him. Don't tell him you love him. Don't tell him you love him. Managed to not tell him that I love him. But yeah, I mean, like that's what the effects that these people have on.
Absolutely.
On fans.
Yeah. I mean, it's because I mean, just to kind of again plug something that Grant Holt's doing at the moment. So I had been sort of going to Durham Town Football Club, and we did a funny video over Christmas, a Christmas burger off that me and Jez had. I won, obviously, and they were good enough to lend us to their kitchen. But Grant has been working very closely with Durham Town to really help improve their women's football team offer, and also like the youth kind of like path to the first team. So he's still very much involved in football in the local area, and I think I've met him obviously a few times. It's still weird. I don't know what to call him. Like I don't know whether to call him Grant Holt or have I passed that point of calling him Grant, and I'm still.
I mean, double naming him is quite weird. You can't just go around calling him Grant Holt when you meet him. Hello, Grant Holt.
but yeah, he's terrific. He's always he's always got time for everyone. Probably and he's been helping out with the club, getting his hands on stuff, literally doing physical stuff for the club as they try to improve their like infrastructure. And it's just crazy to think that he nearly had an England cap. You've written an autobiography for him, and here he is taking fences down at a local football club a few years later. It's
he loves football and he's game for everything. He'll admit he was a bit of a pain in the ass when he was Norwich captain, like because he was quite demanding at the club. But since then he's sort of given his all to the football club and says yes to anything they ask him of. I don't really have any contact with him anymore. And I live in York. He lives in Norwich still. But it was a really great time. And just buying a smoking jacket for him to sit in while he reads his own autobiography for a bit of video marketing we did when we released the book. It was one of my most cherished memories in sport. Amazing. I think.
Yeah,
no, that's really good. Right, question 4, Morgan.
Oh, we're on bloody. I mean, nearly swore there, didn't I?
It's fine. Sorry, before you do that, Morgan. Earlier on, Morgan was referring to Elliot Bennett as Benno. He wasn't being over familiar. He actually asked us to call him that. So I just wanted to clarify that for you, Dan, that we weren't just being over familiar.
Well, yeah, I assume that like footballers are like that, aren't they? As Morgan said, like calling Grant is weird. It's got to be Grant Holt, unless I think you say Grant when I think it does work. If you're from the north and say Grant rather than Grant, I think that's more familiar. Whereas he just doesn't seem like a Grant. Like he's not a Grant. He's a Holty.
No. Yeah. But then I don't know him well enough to call him that. And it's like with Elliot Bennett yesterday, when I was calling him Elliot by his first name, it felt like I was telling him off. Like, I was like, I don't know what to call you, mate. Can you just tell me? So you've also been involved with On the Ball, which is a podcast. How does analysing Norwich on a podcast compare to writing about the club in a book?
Well, that's very generous to say analysing. I don't think we do a lot of that on the Ball podcast. I guess like you guys, like I don't think it's quite a weird one actually. I don't want to go too deep into this, but I always find doing a Norwich City podcast a bit weird because I certainly don't think my opinions are any more valid than any other Norwich City fans. And like the other guys on the podcast, so it was started by Michael Bailey, formerly of Norwich City Shires, who now lives in Australia, and Steve Sanders, who's NCFC numbers on Twitter. It kind of took over from Michael, and we don't. What we want to do is have a bit of fun with it. Like I said earlier, we don't really, it's best to not take football too seriously. So there's not a lot of analysis that goes on in there. We sort of prefer to have be a bit more lighthearted about it. But to answer your question, I don't really like talking, which is odd for someone who is on a Norwich City podcast. I don't think I talk very elegantly. And, I'm a trained journalist. I wrote as a kid, like with Darren. Like Darren Eadie was my footballing hero, but Terry Pratchett, the old Discworld author, was also my hero as well. So I loved writing. I loved football. So I've always been a writer. So I'm much more comfortable telling a story about Norwich City in written form than I am in podcast forms. Also, you can self-edit when writing as well, which you can't do when talking, unfortunately, when you can't get your words out. But luckily, on that podcast, I'm surrounded by very eloquent, getting it wrong, very eloquent talkers in Zoe, Ryan, and Steve, and guests that we have on as well.
No, absolutely, and I do listen to your podcast, and it's one of the I wouldn't want to say one of the few Norwich podcasts that I enjoy because that sounds really bad. I'm very because we've done it now and we do it. I know what work goes into it, so I'll never slag off another Norwich City podcast because we're all, for me, we're all part of one big family. We all want a common goal. None of us want Norwich to play badly. We all want us to succeed and be part of a bigger thing. But I think that the point I'm getting at is, it's great, and I was really pleased when you agreed to come on because I have listened to some of your stuff before, and I disagree. I think you're very eloquent in the way that you put stuff across, and it's always a really good listen.
Well, thank you.
You, Jez.
Pardon?
That eloquent as a claw hammer.
Well, what did I say?
No, you said it right, but you're about as eloquent as a claw hammer.
Oh, right, okay.
And also, like, people want different things from like their football podcasts, right? Like I listen to football cliches, like as a national one. I don't really listen to overly analytical ones. I don't mind all that kind of stuff, and I think data plays a really important role in football. But my my go-to thing is anything that finds the sort of the colour and like the fun in football, really, especially over the last couple of seasons when it's been like dreadful on the pitch. I just think if you sit around like moaning about it, you send yourself mad. But lots of people do like hearing people moaning about football, and lots of people like hearing about the analysis stuff. And I think as a collective, I think Norwich City sort of fan base is quite lucky to have the whole sort of 360 of covering those different elements.
Absolutely. So just before we go to Morgan's random question of the week, which is a sight to behold. Question 5, looking at Norwich City now, what gives you the most optimism for the future, and what still concerns you as a fan?
Optimism is that there's always going to be a football club, like long term, but I mean short term. Philippe Clement gives me a lot of optimism, with the caveat that I worry that managers of his ilk, sort of demanding, proper intense training sessions, happy to sort of point out errors and stuff like that with players, that maybe sometimes have a shelf life. If there's a dip in form, players can sort of turn against that. We've seen that happen with plenty of managers before. But right now, he is getting a tune out, probably more than the sum of this squad's parts. Now, I don't think it is anywhere near as bad a squad as Liam Manning made it look. I think it's probably a sort of 9th place, 10th place squad, but Clement, in a pretty short period of time and with a lot of big injuries list, which a lot of clubs have. Birmingham City don't, but which a lot of clubs have. I think he's done a sort of remarkable job. He's just he's got a balances that between pretty terrifying, but also being kind of likable as well. Like you want him to like you, and I think that's a kind of important element of a football manager, which I think Manning probably didn't have that kind of aura, and maybe the Hoff sort of lacked that wanting to be, you went desperate for him to like you. I think Clement has that as well. As I don't know, like for concerns, we're probably an injury to Kenny and Field away from being in trouble again. With Maatsen still out, like if your midfield gets wiped out, if your engine room gets wiped out, then you're in trouble. As we're just 6 points ahead of the drop still. I do think we'll be absolutely fine. But there is still that little worry that some injuries may disrupt us before now and the end of the season.
Sorry, go on, Morgan.
I just want to throw something back to what you mentioned, Dan, about it being a 9th, 10th place squad, but also cast your mind back, Jez, a year. Do you remember when I spoke about? It feels like when we spoke to your Swansea fan before we went video, and I said that my feeling towards this club in the next few seasons is we could well become a Swansea, where we have a really young squad and we'll keep finishing mid-table, and that will keep happening. And I feel that that's something that's still very much, like, it concerns me in that I think there's a good team there, but they are still so young. And next season, if we stay up, you've got maybe West Ham, Burnley, Wolves, and then whoever doesn't go up this season. So I do genuinely believe that prediction I made at the start of last year, when we still had Hoff, kind of remains. What are both your opinions on that kind of viewpoint?
Yes, like teams can slip into like mid-table mediocrity pretty easily, and since we got relegated, we've finished 14th, 6th, 14th, or something like that, and this season will probably end up in a relatively similar position. So you could argue we've already slipped into that. But what we've got going for us is an excellent manager who has managed at the highest level, and our young players, I do think, are talented. I think the squad probably right now is a 9th or 10th, but 9th or 10th is never that far away from 6th. It's also never that far away from getting relegated. And those young players will have another season of experience under their belt, and they've really, and the experience of going from such a horrific, unprecedentedly bad start to the season to turning that around, that's got to count for a lot. And I'd love to see what Clement can do with a player like Sienats, for example, and what he can do with a player like Magoma, who I thought the one thing I think this squad misses is a Sainz or a Buendia or a Sarah who can just do what
I agree.
I've forgotten his name now. Just got escaped from the Middlesbrough guy who scored the winner against us a couple of weeks ago. Hayden Hackney, who can just turn a game from nothing, like just score from 25 yards. We don't have that sort of player right now, but maybe Magoma is, and if he isn't, if we can add that to our squad in the summer, then I think we've got a manager who could hopefully take us further than mid-table mediocrity.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Morgan, I think there's a lot of ifs if we have a good recruitment, as Dan's just mentioned. in the summer, and that does, for me, that means that we go out and get another defensive midfielder, because I think Sam Field's come in and done well, but I don't think he's the answer if we want to push on. So we need to have a ready-made Kenny replacement. We need to if we keep the players fit, which has been a thorn on our side for at least the last 2 seasons. We can't ever keep more than, I don't know, it seems to be that we have 12, 13 players out injured all the time, and it's just a rotation of those players. And so how can we ever have a squad where you're able to bring on suitable reinforcements, 20 minutes from the end to try and influence the game either way, either defend a lead or go on and try and get a result, whether it be a draw or push on for a win. And I think, when you look at the amount of goals that we've conceded in the last minutes of games this season, it's incredible. Like, I think someone put on the Pinkin the other day, Morgan, that we'd lost something like 4 or 5 points, in the last minutes or seconds of game, like Oxford being the clear example at home.
Preston away as well.
Preston, yeah, exactly. And had we got those, had we been able to hang on, or had we been able to get those points, we'd be like maybe 3 or 4 points off the playoffs now. It's incredible. And it's, had we not had that start of the season where Liam Manning, lost his first 8 games and perhaps only lost 4 of those, for instance, that's another 12 points. So it is all ifs and buts. But I think, I likewise with Dan, I'm really excited to see what Philippe Clement can do with a full season and a full pre-season, because that was the other thing. The pre-season we had last year was a joke. We had 4 games which weren't a challenge. They went and pissed around in Holland for 2 weeks. I don't know what they did. Fuck all, I think is the answer, because the manager clearly wasn't up for it. And so a much better pre-season, a fully fit squad, a couple of reinforcements, and I think we could challenge. I really do.
And sign like maybe 16 left backs in the summer as well, because that is ridiculous how many times our left backs have gone down over the last sort of 2 seasons now. Yeah,
completely agree. Right, time for Morgan's random question of the week. Over to Mr. Hewitt.
Is this about aubergines?
Right. Might be.
Well, but since you've requested. Random question of the week. No, Mr. Dan, I expect you to talk. Right, enough of that.
What is going on?
It's the random question of the week. So you've got a passing resemblance to Simon Pegg, I feel. Sort of.
When I was on holiday in Greece once, and I was asked for my autograph of Simon Pegg. So I mean, apparently he's got a house on that island. I can't remember which Greek island it was now, but I was asked.
You could easily have done that. So a passing resemblance to Simon Pegg.
He looks like Simon Pegg. He does look like Simon Pegg, doesn't he? I'll just put my glasses on to have a look.
Wow. I mean, I used to get Martin Freeman, which, to be honest, I preferred. But now it's Pegg all the way, unfortunately.
Yes. Well, anyway, I was going to make a really bad joke, but I won't.
What's stopping you now?
I like you.
Nice podcast. So you put me off my train of thought now.
It's just a question, Morgan.
We don't get asked questions, okay? We ask the questions. Simon Pegg is obviously quite famous for directing sort of like sci-fi thriller horror films, often dark comedy ones. I'd say our past few seasons have been pretty a horror show. If you had to come up with a cinematic theme for the past few seasons and a title for said film, what would it be and why?
Well, that is a question, isn't it? This is why I prefer writing to an audio format where you have to think on your feet immediately. Right then. Well, it's gonna star Jean-Claude Van Damme as Big Phil, as 2 famous Belgian men. Okay, that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to work back from the star there. Goodness me. I was going to say, maybe Apocalypse Now, if we're starting with relegation from Premier League. Apocalypse Now, the something years. God, it's really putting me on the spot, this one, guys. Apocalypse Now, the banter years. That's what it would be about. But
Okay.
it finishes with a cliffhanger of Norwich potentially turning their fortunes around, with John Claude Van Damme stalking the dugout. And you've got to watch the sequel to find out whether we do get promoted next season or not.
So we're going to send this podcast to our a close contact of ours, Wayne Jones, who's a Wrexham part of the Wrexham thing, to get this notion passed over to Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney to see if we can get it made.
Please do, yeah. And who gets the rights from this? Oh, it's Simon Pegg, I guess, actually, isn't it? Simon Pegg gets the rights. That's a shame.
So Jez, in this point in time, Jez has been sat there rubbing his hands together going, this is buying me loads of time to come up with the absolute nonsense.
I mean, I assume when this comes out, it will be edited, right, to make it sound like I just gave that answer straight off the bat.
No, we don't. The only thing we only ever time we edit is if someone really drops a nut, which doesn't happen that often.
Indeed. So I was just picking up all the names that you've been dropping on the floor, Morgan.
I didn't even name any of the big sports people that I've interviewed as well. Not one name I mentioned.
I would have a Dr. Evil type character that is basically somehow managed to get the role of fitness coach for Norwich City Football Club. And he's probably played by someone like, I don't know, Kevin Spacey, if that's politically correct at the moment. Probably isn't, to be honest. But I
would say like Chris Domagala has the look of someone who could play a Dr. Evil kind of fitness guy. And if that means we also get him back, then perfect.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what his backstory is he grew up in Ipswich and always hated Norwich City, but went away and became a fitness coach and forgot about it a little bit. But suddenly he gets this opportunity to become the fitness coach, and it just eats away at him a little bit in his head every day that he's at Norwich City and he's having to do this. And then all of a sudden he thinks, right, fuck this. I'm going to make these players the most unfit players. They're going to get injured all the time. And then he just goes absolutely mental one day. And that would be the horror scene of horror scenes. I'm struggling to think of a name for it, so I don't know. Maybe Hidden Encounters or something like that. I don't know. Something really broad.
Sounds like a dirty film.
It does, doesn't it? Actually,
it does. Like
what would you do?
I've really thought about it in that very short space of time. So, for some reason, the first team travel by train from Wyndham to Dereham. Travel by coach from Wyndham to Dereham. So there's a train line in Dereham, but unfortunately, it doesn't.
Is this going to be a remake of Speed?
It's going to be It's going to be lots of things. So what happens is, though, some kind of crazed scientist that's obviously based in the UEA Science Park is on the way through Dereham at the same time, and he's got this canister of really deadly virus. Unfortunately, the virus comes out. He has a car crash. The virus comes out in Dereham, and everyone's
Shane Duffy driving.
No, you cannot. That's getting edited.
Well, I mean, he has had a car crash, so
yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, I like
that. Anyway, so that turns into the population of Dereham zombies that they're not already. And the team they're like, what are we going to do? So they have to get on the train that's parked in the Dereham train station that goes nowhere for safety. And the title of it's going to be called Things to Do in Dereham When You're Dead, which is basically like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. And I've always wanted to come out with that. So so there you go. So it's a survival horror set in Dereham. The players have to escape from Dereham, basically.
Okay.
That's just made me think that we're having to watch Shane Duffy and Medic sort of turn and try and run back when, a striker's running through on goal. Real striking similarities to the zombies that Simon Pegg is so obsessed about. Slow, lurching, not really getting anywhere. And when they get there, they're going to do something bad.
Yeah, exactly. perfect metaphor.
That's amazing. Yeah, 100%. Boys, thank you so much. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to talk all things NCFC. Just one more little plug for your On the Ball podcast, please.
Well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for accommodating me during the daytime as well. I know that you normally do this in the evening, so appreciate that. So,
No problem.
yeah, so if anyone wants yet another Norwich City podcast, although I say that like we haven't been going for 5 years, then On the Ball podcast is hosted by Ryan with Steve, who is NCFC Numbers on Twitter, and Zoe as well, and myself, and Connor Southwell, who often joins us on there as well. So do please give us a listen if it's your cup of tea.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
What about your books as well?
Well, I don't even know if they're available in the club shop anymore. So, but if anyone wants to Google Grant Holt's autobiography, it'll take you through to wherever it's available, and also The Place Is Going Bananas, the official history of Norwich City Football Club. I think it's subtitled. Oh, and can I just say, I should have said this. The best thing about that book was getting Philip Pullman, the author of His Dark Materials, one of Britain's greatest ever, of the last 100 years writers, to write the foreword to that book, because he is a Norwich City fan, which I'm not entirely sure lots of people know that.
My mum loves that show.
He was born in Norwich, grew up here, until he was a kid before moving to Wales, but he still followed Norwich all that time. So if you can get a hold of a copy of it, just do get a hold of a copy of it for Philip Pullman's very, very lovely foreword that he wrote for it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And just for everyone else watching, please do like and subscribe on our channel for more great content. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. We're proudly supported by Master Seal, Pie Design, and the Freemason Arms pub in Norwich, where you can get 10% off on match days for the home and away for men's and the women's games that are at Carrow Road. That is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it, Morgan? But never mind. We are part of the TalkSport fan network. Pardon?
They have to subscribe and show that they're a subscriber to our channel to get that discount.
Yes, you do. You have to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the 10% off discount at Freemasons Arms. I've been Jez Davies.
I've been Morgan Hewitt.
Do I have to say that now as well? And I've been Dan Brigham.
Thanks.
Like that.
Thanks.
Nice.